No, I have a much better one.
Now you can find meeting.
they see the person blocking the person. Oh, yeah. It's kind of
Mine?
Going to move away.
Come on, no, I'll just get it from you.
What?
Should I tell him to move over or?
Move over.
yeah, maybe. I'm gonna put something on that.
Are we good? It's fine. I don't need to sit next to you.
Everything was a deal. Couldn't brush it up. Yeah? And he would say, Shad
Yeshiva wanted us to ask them why, but what could they do? It seemed they didn't have someone for the afternoon, and they needed some office help. So Hashem, our office, to go to their office, to run their office, and he sent the Yeshiva people of Baruch to go and say the afternoon Yeshiva. The next year already they actually folded, and we opened and continued to be the afternoon levy by us for all the years the Yeshiva was in session. Rebbe that believed in all those studies. But they were little kids when they were on KJ, or here, where they were moving up from camp. He was Moliasa there. He had an eye in every bacher. He cared about them. He held every bacher in reach Mandalay. You know, in the Gemara that says, someone says, the guy who limits us says, Al-Tamin. What does that mean, Al-Tamin? Means he can do it, you can do it. Don't you see, that's Kinas Seifrin. Al-Bechachma means, if he can do it, you can do it. Doesn't mean jealousy, I'm jealous and I'm going to compete with him. It means simply, if he can do it, you can do it. And that was his belief. He worked with the Bach, and the degree, I think in the Yeshiva, was called Rebbe, but not Rebbe alone. So with a hey idea, not Rebbe, the Rebbe. You think of the Taku. And he was also big monogamy. In camp, he was really big, actually danced on the tables. But here, sing and he's leaving the Bachim, and they all fell in with him. And when he would do that, they felt attached to the niggin, the accident, and he sang with him without him. The halls was always with his big one. He never burned out. And a lot of times when difficulty comes, it's called burnout. Even find it by Yahweh Ravine this week said, he went to open an issue in Beersheba and intended to keep it open forever. After 26 years inside, it's not Beersheba, but it's Plishtim, and it's time to go. And he went to Harav. And after the Akedah, he went down, he went to Israel, he went back to Beersheba. One time he went to Beersheba. So the Yeshiva is about Beersheba. The has to point out it's not true. He went back to Harav. The soul was already died. Why did he go to Beersheba? He saw smoke come up from the Midbar. That was not the place that he was supposed to be. That's where you get beef from a Midbar, you can have Kedusha. What happened to Beersheba? He went back to Beersheba and he found it wasn't a split. It wasn't Mandalay he wanted maybe, but it was an ear, Babayas Hashem, and Louis, and that's what he saw in all this time, even always. And over the years, there are thousands of Talmidim, that way I said here in camp, Margin J. Didn't make a difference, he always came. He came when he was in a wheelchair. And he said this year every day. Then even when we had to go on Zoom, it was on Zoom. Then unfortunately he got sick. And even when he was sick, in times it was that he was able actually to say the shir. He said the shir. It was on Zoom. You might think it was shvach. You can hear that in his voice how shvach he was. But he did it. And his ambition was always to come back and say this shir again. He's not giving it up. And so forth. Unfortunately, Martha kept coming back and back. But whatever, he was always besimcha. I was a day to Shas Meisler, I saw a video when he got out of the hospital the first time. With intubation, how everybody was sameach at that time. And he have to speak about personal relationships or different as Talmidim, as Obeim, anyway. Bila Alison, that's a Baruch Hashem.
משגיח שליטה.
Harav Boruch. After 50 years, very hard to say goodbye. The years of such a connection to such a goal, such a balmidos, such a Yerushalayim, such a choshev yid. A lot of good conversations together. Torah. Very hard to say goodbye. Think to myself, to touch up Harav Boruch, the way I saw him, the way I see him. As I mentioned, it's a freedom mensch, the simcha de mensch. Kabel kol preserve upon your voice. Kabel the simcha. Smell the kid vanoshim. Such a freilich environment. Mensch, when he spoke to him, he walked away with a smile all the time because he felt good speaking to him. That's the grace of mitzvah. Be able to make people feel good. Mahabachato. Baruch makes us feel, we had a nice day outside, beautiful day, sunny day. Why does Baruch make a nice sunny day? They should walk outside, look outside and feel good, be in a good mood. Because Baruch wants to be mated to develop. One of the ways to be mated, make us feel good, it's a nice day. Look outside, I have to appreciate it. Baruch Hashem, he makes it a beautiful day, the sun is out. That's how tough it is, Baruch. To smile to somebody and make them feel good, Shalom Aleichem, you have a nice smile, that's a very chesed. How about Fata? Make a person feel good. Should be reminded as our Indian. Serve upon your voice. Love it, the kid. This reasons, simcha, and so he puts them together. Get on top of the table. There's Mamuna. Everybody was Sameach, dancing around him. It's a shmeichel he had. Big schus. It's never as I mentioned. It's broken their apples, and oranges, and different types of apples. Every little thing, person, he likes this, he likes that. So as I mentioned, how vata. Make you feel good, a little good, very good. It's gewaldige schus, chesed. He had two stereotypical Indian and Northern body, what we're talking about now. But he had a starker to him also. He could be very stark. Discussing about the Yeshiva, about the Bocha, and Yonin. He was very stark about that. One hand we saw. On the upways, simcha, friendly. I had the shine about the Yeshiva on the Baruch Moshe, one of the Brochen. I had this kasha all the years. What is Rav Moshe? Is a starker mensch who worked himself to be a weicher mensch? Is a weicher mensch who worked himself to be stark? You saw both things in him. There are clouds, from Yafas, like we're talking about, a weicher mensch. But sometimes he'll be very stark, certainly known it. I've seen it, saw it. So I was clear, what is he? How was he born? The Ram says, men is born with certain weaknesses, born. We have to work on ourselves. So Salanta, tikkun amidas, vicious amidas. What was he? Still don't know. But one thing's for sure, that's a symbol for the Balmidas. If you can't tell what a person is, that's simply a person of Balmidas. Because he controls himself and he does what's supposed to be done, what's supposed to be nice and friendly and soft. So you do that. It's supposed to be stark, almost green. You have to be that. Balmidas, not a nice guy. A nice guy, but it's broken, but it's a nice guy. It's correct, it was broken, not to the mensch. The mensch, to make him a nice guy, or make him a starker guy. Plus, that's a nadrega, that's a Baal Midas, a Baal Boss, whoever is Midas. Maybe some people are born to have both. But he uses the right one at the right time. It's Baal Midas. I look at the Baruch, I hope he doesn't mind if I'm saying the wrong time. She's here. He said, "Being coming, farm cat and head. I'm going to be standing there. Above standing here with blisters, the goof is here, the shop is here." Avram Avinu, that's when he was a Baal Midas. He was Chesed, Avinu. Or he went to war to kill people. Came to Muhammad, Rashi brings. Altir Avram killed all those people in Muhammad. He was a Baal Midas. He was running, bowing down, he's so 60 years old, and Imam is Rossam, and the whole the description of Avinu Baal Chesed. But when it came to war, we had to kill the Shoyim. He was there. He was a Baal Midas. Of course, we say that's why the Akedah was in the Shoyim, was Azorius, killed his own child. It's connected to God's most of Avram Avinu, we say. Nice is a one of Baal Chesed. This was Gaber. He did what he had to do. Don't kill his own son. Those are Baal Midas. I feel that son of the Lord. He had that courage to be so nice, friendly, environment, island, good. However, when it came to Inyonim, died. Gewaltige Bakishu, spoke about an Indian, he got Indian, very good way of understanding people, offering who they are. We'll discuss with him. Chapped, understood. Chochem Bina Das. Chochma we know, Mashalom Be'acher, it's Chochma, Bina, name Dar Metav Novar. What's Das? Das is application. A person can be a Gotzel Chochma, and no Mamish, Kotraku. Bina, the Mamish Ratzkorim, the Mamish alle or various of the das, lav dafka. Das means application. How to apply the right thing to the right situation, to the right person. A lot of people go to therapists today. Be careful what therapist you go to. They can have a lot of book knowledge. Or to apply the right truth to the right machla. That's the kunz. Das. It's right. It's a das. Let me tell you wrong. Jeder kann nicht nur jeder was ein Chibur. Das was ein Chibur. And the Chaber to take the Chochmah and Bina and apply it to the right person. You have a doctor who knows medicine, who doesn't know which medicine, which machla, can kill somebody. Same way, the person has to kill him. Has to know the right truth and the right problem. We spoke to the board. Spoke about the water. They will talk to Indian. We have discussed with him. Him. What to apply to the right person, the right situation. So it's such a pleasure to talk to him about problem Yeshiva. Not a pleasure, it's a problem, but to talk about the problem. And what we're missing now since a long time, to do that. Shmuz and the Maldi is where we said with this das that he had. I find myself quoting him on Shmuz that I heard from him. Such yashras, such not brushy, but mamish to the point. Bring up mamish, Muslim Haskell, and understanding how fun it is in Indian. More ridiculous. Shmuz is ridiculous. You tell the Amitius, the Zad. For the time you have to say with some of the Zad, that's what I have to say now. But no, if I can dig him, so about it here, we have Rosh I explain it. But the chief got from Indian, the essence of the Zad, able to do. No wonder he had such a shaykhis to the daily Israel. He's RJJ, old times, we had Allah Repensha, Magida Shir, the whole Pushba from Yeshivas from Europe. And he had a big shaykhis to them, he was talking about, quote them, talk about them. No wonder he had such a Gavaldiya of understanding, turned to the young to understand the people. It's like broken off, breaking off the other door. It was like a connection between the outer door and the night door. It was. Yes, it's a chance to brought them to Unser door. Don't have that now. Yeshiva Avram, hold the say anekdo. Yeshiva Avram, hold the say anekdo. Rashi, Vayet Seya, he went to one place and stopped. Another place and he stopped. Stay over. Negba, Torah to Shalayim, anekdo. I think the Torah's been ravished to the ganze Leben from Avram Avinu. Hold the say anekdo. Going to Yerushalayim. His ganze Leben was going to Yeshiva at his Baruch. All of the say, Yisa is traveling, he's going. And the Shiva's mother Baruch said, Tagol Mitzvah Yisrael. You had Mitzrayim. The opposite in front of them. That was a miso, How do miso? Go towards Israel, but then Tzibri Hashem, nothing can stand in your way. That must be so. The Prophet said, you gotta go, you go. You won't be held back by anything. Isa Avram, Unsa Negbo. He overcame obstacles. He was coming to the Hakadosh Baruch Hu. That was the story of his life. Isa Avram, Amhal Unsa Negbo, Torah Israel to the Shechina. Nothing can stop him. A lot of people try to stop him, try to kill him. But no, help Messiah, he went, stopped, he went. I love him today when he went from Yaakov to the Meshachach, Lava, Harav Boruch, Lava went back to his place. 20 years from Yaakov Avinu. He went back. He was in Russia. Not Russia. Harav Boruch, something of the he stagnated. Same Mokum. Yaakov Harav Ladarka. Yaakov, after being the Lava, he went to Ladarka, he steigt. Whatever matzah he found himself in. I thought about this by remembering what Yeshiva's going to give a shmooze here. And he's talking about steiging. He said, there's the letzte Atem, wo wir sein over Hashem. Quoting, there's the letzte Atem, to the last breath. You have to over Hashem. I saw it in him saying to the talk, I told him so to himself. That's why it is such a rush. There's the letzte Atem, wo wir sein over Hashem, to the last breath. Vayisa, Harav Boruch, ganze Leben, going towards Avodas Hashem, Aliyah, steiging. Baruch, the Yeshiva, he was so chashuv. Remember the Yeshiva, remember, even before he was sick, a lot of trouble to come to the Yeshiva, all kinds of tirchas, Sachen to come. Mamish put the guns in. Then Mamish the Shir, said the Shir, Mamish would say it. And excused to retire already. He's above age, could have retired. That's for sure. All of a sudden, Anegba, Shir, happens to have a rabbin. That shmooze that we say Yom Tov, we have no to get there again, the shmooze for Yom Tov, and all the shmooze. But the Soya Negbo is the lesser autumn. This is what somebody saw in the border. Some missing from the border. Saying now, much more than I'm saying. That's the Mechila case. Wasn't decided that to sein, the feeling is godless, it's Yeshivas. Over his proof is not here, over his godless, it's still here. All those Talmidim, what I'm saying now, they know what I'm talking about. Don't carry on. Zikr Baruch, Zikr Baruch, he's Talmidim, Kuravim. So that's the up.
Rabbi Michelle Ginsburg. lassen uns über, es fällt uns und wir bleiben mit der Nochs. So geworden. Der Mond 4, die alle Meiles von der heilige Lifte, der Boruch, sehr viel Zeit mit Woche, ist, wenn Isha Schkoilis, Isha Kolboy, wenn in der Kudus ist auf der Mond of Freer, wir sehen, von den Bescheunen, erzählt sich am Meise, nach sich wird durch die Ruhe, erzählt, dass gehört von einer, was ich gewesen, Cheper Kadisha, ein Kabel gewesen, ein Mensch, und derselbe Tag, er kommt in Mesa Knesses, und sagt, der Mensch sitzt dort, ungehabt, und er geht zu einem Effekt, du bist nicht der Mensch, was ist dein Kabel gewesen? Er sagt, ja, ich bin der Mensch. Nun, wie ist euch gemacht dort in eurem MS, in der Nähe? Er sagt, sehr, sehr gut mit Kabel gewesen. Er sagt, was ist der Pschat? Und du kommst dort zurück, und das kann ich gewinnen, als weiß von Gott, und ich kann gewusst von dir, was ist der Meister, was ist, hat er erzählt, also so wie hat, in Schul, vielleicht der Sorgen, dass es mir ist, in Schwache, es hat gesprochen, mit der gewaltigen Neimus, mit der gewaltigen Geschmackheit. Von dem wird mit einem Kabel vergleichen in Ganeden. Und man merkt, dass der Jid sitzt dort mit der ganze Flowers am Top of the Head. Was ist das auf deinem Kopf? Sagt er, weil ich da gekommen habe, to give over this message. Und da ist der Reiches Reis, ist Kadeer so nicht, davon haben Zar von der Reiches Reis, und wir geben uns auch eine Blumen, Flowers, und so kennen, Vergnügen haben von den Flowers, aber in der Ölmer soll nicht Peugen sein. Es bringt sich dort herab, setzen mit den Kabels von einer, das ist in der Mesa Knesses, und sagt, Schwochen, gesprochen mit Neimus. Und mit dem ist mit dem Kabel gleich in Ganeden. Der Boruch, mit äußerem, du es gewesen, Atam Chochem Amiti, Atam Chochem Shorim, in allen Jonen, in Haloche, in Lomdis, in Musser, in Agode, in Alts, Atam Chochem Amiti. Aber Amidis Amiti, als Ding. Aber von dem allein, wer kennt der Monster nicht? Das allein, was er kommen, jeden Jahr Schwurs. Jeden Jahr Schwurs wird er kommen. Und wir sitzen die ganze Nacht und die ganze Euro bestattet gewesen. Und er fliegt da der Schachris, den Hammer, mit der ganze Neimus, dass er gewinnt, ein Chesed für die ganze Zibur. An nachher von Beurlung. Von dem allein kommt aber soll die Mekabel sein, gleich in Ganeden, so Himmel und Nuchos. Osbu es Sonne und Nuchos. Es fällt uns es fällt uns dein Schmeichel, es fällt uns dein Nimus, es fällt uns dein Gabels Beteuer, es fällt uns deine Siches Musser, es fällt uns deine Schuhe, es fällt uns Osbu es Sonne und Nuchos. Boruch, Dovra Melech hat gesagt in Shmuel, der hat gebracht, Shmuel Beis, der hat maßlich gewesen Yoinesen, hat gesagt, Zari Alecha Ochi, Yoinesen, Noamteli Moed, Sedo Ochi, Achbe, Ochi Bimitzvist, auf verschiedene Sorten Ochis, aber Sedo Amol Noamteli Moed, das ist Niimus, sehr Niimus. Geboren L'chaim. Ich habe solche gewesen, zu sein mit dir, Asach Yoren, und wo ich sitze mit dir, special bei Achassene, wir sitzen zusammen, Geboren L'chaim, und wir fliegen Schmuyes in den Leben, und deine Rede, dass gewesen, nie muss allein. Äußere der Chochme, äußere alles, was gestiegen von dir, was im Kabel gewesen von dir. Das ist der Mann früher. Du bist gewesen, the bridge zwischen der friedige Door, der erste Door, was gekommen, die Yeshiva gekommen in Amerika, von der Cheshuvim, was gekommen von der Meer, was gekommen von den alle Yeshivas, was angekommen von Europe. Und du bist gewesen, die von dem, was in der Kabel ging von sie. Und ich will hören von dir, die alle Schmuisen, die alle Reden, was du vielleicht das übergeben, dass sie gewinnt Geschmackheit, die ganze Niemes, was dir gegeben. Und dort rufe, in der Hespel von David Melech, wenn wird wegen Shoel Melech, sagt ich noch Flugi Bäumen, bei Joim du Klein Muchome, hat der Masbi gewesen Shoel Melech, als gefallen Bäume, bei Joim du Klein Muchome. Das ist noch eine Kunde, was man darf verstehen. Du demonstrierst, deine Abdomen zu deinem Sefer, schon immer demonstrierst. Und du gibst den ganzen Credit zu deinen Eltern, deine Chosheва Eltern, sich von immer Woche. Was sie haben reingegeben, der Chinuch und dir und dein Bruder, und sie haben gemacht sicher, so bleiben bei meinem Lernen. Und der Ruch ist, damals ging der Ruch ist von Amerikanism, der Ruch ist von College. Und du bist geblieben in Yeshiva, du bist geblieben ganz in dem und der Torah, Hashem und Terrasse. Wie viel Gewurre hat sich das gefordert von dir? Wie viel Gewurre zu gehen und kennen, der Mann früher zugestellt zu Abraham Avinu. Abraham Avinu gewinnt von einer Seite, der ganze Welt von der anderen Seite. Harav Boruch. Wie viel Gewurre hat sich gefordert? Du bist gewinnt ein Giver Watson. Bei Joim du Klein Muchome. Nicht nur bist du gewinnt ein Giver, du bist immer genommen, reingenommen in sich, die Klein Muchome, was du bekabeln von all deinen Rebellen, wie du machst da ganze Zettel von den alle Rebellen, was dir Mechaniker ist, und der Monster mit seinen Namen, und du sagst immer, was sie haben dir aufgetan. Ich denke, ich habe gehört, von der Heilung, du hast mir allein gesagt, ich ist dir der Mond, und es gab das alte Simche von dem. Ich sage auch immer so, das gehört von der Warschawczyk, hast du gehört, in der Geburt, wo man zieht, der Beise, die more effective Leben, als dies in der Leuke Bananas. Vielleicht das immer so, das sage ich Geschmack. So, was sie? Ich lebe, was sie? Was ist das Problem? But there's a name. Torah ist, als ich hosche, Leben, was dies in der Leuke Bananas, es hebt sich der Himmel. Leben, was dies in der Leuke Bananas. Das Name, Prat, in Dogma, was du vielleicht immer gibst, die Säure, der Stoff ist ein was das immer gegeben. Die Gemara sagt in Sanhedrin, Shemeis Hillel, Omrolov, Hai Chosid, Hai Onov, Talmidoi Shel Ezra. Es steht da, mit Masbet gewesen Hillel, und gesagt, Hai Chosid, Hai Onov. Was fällt? Manchmal es geht, Lamalo, Mal Bakoidish, Chosid, Hayonov, Talmidei Shel Ezra, Mal Bakoidish. Als Talmidei Shel Ezra, das einander Madrege, das hatten sich die ganze viele Gedörges. Es ist nicht der Chosid Hayonov von dem Dor, das ist der Chosid Hayonov von der Talmud von Ezra. Der Boruch, wenn wir hatten hier in die Yeshiva, haben wir gehabt die ganze Böhle Ador. Wie der Monster des Sefer, das hat ein Scheiches, ein Stabkus, ein gewaltiges Karmes mit Doriador. Und besonders der Monster, was du es gewähnt in der Persischen Leim und es gelernt, wenn wir Yeshiva sagen, wie du es bekabelt gewesen und wie du es als ein Machschiff und Tag in der Sefer, der Monster gesehen, was du es gelernt von ihm und ab ihm sein Jesod, ab ihm dem Jesod, gehst du weiter. Und das ist die andere Beine, was du Machschiff gewesen und es da reingenommen in sich. Du hast sie gewinnt, deine Kleine Muchome. Du hast da reingenommen, diese Kleine Muchome. Äußer dein Ätzem, Gwur ist ein Nefesh. Was du so kennt, gehen gelegen, die ganze Amerikanism. Sie können gehen und kennen die ganze Welt. Du hast da reingenommen, diese Kleine Muchome. Und jetzt ist verloren gegangen. So, hey, Menuchos. Boruch, du gehst zu deinen Menuches. Du bist sicher, als du gehst, nimmt die gleich am Ende Leben, dein Chesed, dein Atove, dein Gutskeit, deine Imus, Miede genegt Miede. Aber hat Geschmack von dir. Wie mit der Kukiton hat mir geschmeichelt. Ein ganzes Leben von Mahane sein, Azibur, Mahane sein, in allen Jonen, mit deiner Teure, mit deinem Tfilis, mit deinem Zmiris, mit deiner Anzaspor, ein Leben von Mesamir sein, an Elkim Banosh wieder uns zu frieren. Ein Leben von Ali Deule. Aber als Boison war noch ist, uns fällt, wer wird uns das geben? Wer wird es immer geben? Sie do a Halal, Mama Halal do in Yeshiva. In einem Befnehmen Meis und Wurf schon Meis. Ich do a Teich, Porsche immer sagen, seine Dibiteuer, wir sehen da, du sagst immer, an Dobra Melech, dass sagt, Ach Shalti, Beis Hashem, Oisa Vake, Shishti, Beis Hashem, Koi Mei Chayoi, und führt uns Slowakei Mei Choloi. Ich gefragt, was ist das Slowakei nur? Slowakei meint doch eine kurze Visit. Was ist noch Slowakei? Hat doch aber gewollt sein, im ganzen Kavur Mei Choloi, was Slowakei Mei Choloi. Sagst du Pshat, als Slowakei Mei Choloi, kann sein ein Loschen von Bikur, kritisieren, Bikur Mum, ist ein Moment, Zeit, was in der Gehe, Moment als Sugien. Und man lernt das Sugi, wie der Monster aus der Yeshiva Zahl hat er geheißen, sein dort, aber Yeshiva dort, der Yeshiva, aus das getan war, der Yeshiva der Metzale gewesen. Und du sagst immer, als er dir gesagt, zu dem Maschinen nicht mit Kies, dann sollst du immer gehen Maschinen am Kies. Also ich sagst du immer, ist lernen das Sugi, zu nehmen das Sugi, man wacke sich das Sugi. Und noch damit da hier wacke der Mumien von dem Mensch allein. Was du gesagt hast, das geht zusammen. Aber du tut das Sugi, du lernt das Sugi, du vernehmt das Sugi. Und noch ist mit Beunig in sich, was hat sich Scheibe zu mir, das Mekayim. Und das ist die Kavone von Dobra Melch, wacke der Choloi, zu erweisnehmen von der Yeshiva, erweisnehmen von Torah, sich besagen sein, das alle werden. Ist da müssen die Wege teilst dir ab. Das ist Abteil von deinem Leben, das ist ein Leben von Achashalti. Shit is Hashem, und der Vakir, Ksede, gehorvet in Torah. Ich denke, zu den Zeiten, was die Menschen sind bei der Chasme zusammen mit dir. Und vielleicht in seiner Zeit, das darf zugehen in der Schir, vielleicht rausnehmen ein Pen mit einem Papier und vielleicht schreiben, was zugehen in dem Schir. Sitzen mit bei der Chasme, zugehen in der Schir. Ksede, nur Torah, Beide, wie das Torah ist, ein ganzes Leben von dem. Und steigen und wachsen, wie du sagst, das ist der Tag des Odom, sich besagen sein, das alle werden besser. Aber von dir bin ich besäuert, ich kann einfach sagen, noch ein Teich in der Wacke der Choloi. Mit viel der Mond, als bei Boruch ist kein Mensch gewinnt für Burnout. Das tut mir eine Sache. Gewinnt Geseder mit Simcha und was war Matze, was war Schwerkeit, was war Quedes, was war Kuvin. Keine Sache hat ihm nicht gestört, mit der ganzen Simcha Sachayim, mit der ganzen Brand Geseder getan, was der Böhrisch will von ihm, und getan seine Schlichus, was der ewig dann geschieht auf der Welt. Wie also kennt das ein Mensch, hat man so sagt, nicht doch im Burnout. Weil Chazal sagen, als Torah darf sein, Kachadoshes, Torah darf sein frisch. Sie kämen nicht alt. Sie sind im Schat, ich bin schon auf Yeshiva, schon 20, 50, 40, 30, 50 Jahre. Sie wird das Jahr schicken. Aber als man hat den Koyach von Chadoshes, der Koyach von Chadoshes ist jeder Tag, ist ein neuer Tag, ist ein neues Chatsches, ist eine neue Sache. Das Efter nicht Dobra Melch, Dobra kommt dir Obteitchen, was du es gewesen. Levaya of Harav. Wenn du es gewinnt, die Yeshiva ist jeden Tag gewinnt ein neuer Bikur, ein neuer Visit. Es ist nicht gewesen, weil ich bin schon da, ist eine alte Sache. Jede Sache ist mit der Frischkeit, mit der Lebendigkeit. Und keine Sache kann man nicht stehen und keine Kuchen ist nicht machen. Mit dem Mund deine gewaltige Schusse, was du hast. Besonder, der Reuschung, in dein gewaltige Abotzes a Teure, was du es erleben von Abotzes a Teure, in a sehr viel verschiedene Eufanen, sei Sommer, Winter, und wenn Freier und später allemal Beruf ist von Abotzes a Teure, und besonder da in Yeshiva, hat mir solche gewesen, zu dein gewaltiger Abotzes a Teure, everything in der Sefer da, der Monster da, der Schwach, was der solche gewesen da in der Yeshiva. Und du sagst, Harav Boruch, שהעם ילמדתם רבויסי ומחבר היועסי להם ותלמידי היועסי לכולם. ובפרט מתלמידי היקורים בישיבה סטטן איילנד, שכולם אהובים, כולם ברורים, כולם עושים באימה וירא וצוין כהנם במידויס טויבוס. ואף שלי לפרטם כי רבים הם, והשאר לכולם ברכוסי הלבובס. Das ist deine gewaltige Übergegebenheit zu den Talmiden von der Yeshiva, was ich weiß persönlich, als sie hat gewaltige Arbeit von beiden zusammen, durchwenden, also aus dem Talmud und dem Talmud, und der Talmud ist manchmal blödig und der Talmud ist gewaltig, dein ein Teuf, deine Übergebenkeit zu Talmiden. Will ich immer so ein paar Schures von Sefer von Alten von Kellen, sagt Schus HaGodel shel HaMezakes HaRabim, die gewaltige Schus, du kommst mit der gewaltige Schus in den Himmel, kommst du in Mezakes HaRabim. Ki Kavones HaMezake, der was ist ein Rebbe, am Ashgiach, am Ashpia, was ist ein Kavone? Also haben mich Chöyles, also sein Chöyles biad die Talmidim, sie sollen steigen, und sie sagen, wo ihre Kabel hat der Wasser gesborach, und durch den gibt es Simcha zum Beurer. Kol Schleimes Enushi Liois Meitiv, die ganze Schleimes Enushi ist einer Meitiv. Und die Efsche sois, Bli Aras Abries, und der Pfarrer behauptet, Lerecha Kamoicha, Klal Gordon Batoira. Und was liegt in Meitiv seiner Bries? Und Bechlal, Lelandom zu lernen sie Teure. Und Leyashvom geben sie Ayashvos in Teure. Beteure ist Hashem. Und Leichicham al sein, weisen. Und Mechir sein Gemusse. Bezero Ikir HaTobo. Lehnt sich heim be'einu Lisborach. Leheitiv loi HaTobo b'tachlis. Als du machst deine Talmiden, so moit sich heim be'einu. Und der Ebi soll kennen, lehnt sein b'tachlis. Und das ist der größte HaTobo. Boruch, du bist gewesen ein Native Lakoil, ein Native, die ganze Leben Native gewesen. Der Bönische Lehrer wird sicher mit Kabel sein, mit Asa Simcha, mit Asa Abba, du hast gegeben der Bönische Lehrer Simcha. Yismach Hashem b'Maisof, hat du es gemacht, der Eulen kann steigen, und von dem gibt der ewige Simcha. Hast du gegeben der ewige Simcha. Wenn der ewige Simcha mit Kabel sein mit Simcha, geh mit der Stolzkeit und mit dem Kabel sein in Ganeden und du sein dort zusammen mit alle deine Rebellen, was du gerade eine gewaltige Käse mit sind. Und deine Chaverim, was du sagst, sie sagt, die Chaverim, was du hast, die Doile Teure, was sie lernen zusammen mit dir. Und die alle, die dienen deine, was du es mal spiegeln an dich, dass du gehen dort und es sein dem Nucha, des Simcha, und Bila Hashem, Moch Hashem, dem Nachkofa.
I'd rather tell the Danish first.
Everybody knows that when I said the shir list, so that he said, I'm saying the Rebbe shir now. When Yantiv came, and the Rebbe felt a little better to say a shmooze, he said the shmooze. What can I tell you? With the Rebbe many years. Type him up as he do in Midas, as he doesn't need my estimate. I can't talk about a Rebbe like that. It just became the shmuzim later on. He would say, I'm talking to myself. I want to say, out of all the years, the Rebbe never changed. Anybody can close their eyes from being in Yeshiva and picture the Rebbe coming into the base medrash. The Rebbe came with the same nishmak, the same kaya, all the different matzah. But if you close your eyes, it's the same Rebbe. The Rebbe never changed. From the day I could think in my mind, the earliest time I knew of him, in MTJ as a little boy, seeing some distinguished man come down from the Kairo. The dining was not that hush of a place. When you see a distinguished man in there, it made a ration. That was the first point. The Rebbe, from that day on, every time I saw him, he was always distinguished. He was always covered at Torah. There was always a special principle. There was always a smile on his face. There was always the friendliness, as the Yeshiva said, caring about every single individual, the Talmidim. He never changed. It's true, the first time I saw him, his beard was completely black. That way she might remember. Trimmed black. And that's what changed. Whether it was in Camp Magen Avraham, the ganze Olam, the Yeshiva spoke about, I was there. It was exactly as he said. That was this iris. That was the Olam. The teenage camp had a lot of the Yeshiva Staten Island guys there. The Rebbe gave over. The Rebbe said himself, he was the Rebbe before he was the Rebbe. The Rebbe was always that high. I don't know him from being a Moed Asra, of course, a Paisik, besides London and besides all the other things that we did. We heard already, and we knew. I only remember from Naguda in Borough Park, I believe that was the place where the Olam got together, Ben Azman and Chalamai to learn. It's a remember schlepping on the train to come down there to see. That was. The Rebbe was always the Moed Asra, always, and everybody came to the Rebbe. They rallied around him. Every time he comes in, he's electrifying. He's bigger than life. And always a great schmoozer, and Torah was it. He lived Torah. Yeah, you get married and things changed. It didn't change. You could picture him as a father. Always steiging, always growing. I can picture when he said the shmooze, I remember thinking of him. I think it was a Hanukkah shmooze, rather. Said the Mishnah entire it's an old. Kol shebiyam, tar chutz mikel shebiyam. Everything is tar in the sea except for the kel shebiyam. And of course, each according to his level, explaining because the kel shebiyam runs like a basha when he sees trouble. A ben Torah can't leave Torah. Whether he was giving us a shmooze on how we should say it, whether doing this man, bein as man, how we should grow in life. I saw the Rebbe, kol shebiyam tar. Married life, I could picture him, that's it, with svarim in his hand and he could learn him. You come in, you could shmooze like Asana. When he has time, he doesn't learn, but always pleasant, always caring, and always steiging. He didn't change. In the later years, usually I was the in-between, and Gershon would say, check with the Baruch, what Masechta, what parak we're going to be learning. And I'd come back. Okay. We've had a few times, the last time Gittin was one time, different Masechta, so Gershon didn't ask it that way. He said, I think we should learn this parak. So I went to the Baruch and said, Gershon thinks we should learn this parak. So he says, he thinks a second. He says, tell him we usually do this parak, but it's not a problem. I'm ready to prepare new shurim. And he wasn't joking. He was ready. Why not? That's what it is. That's what the Rebbe wanted. The Baruch the Gershon wanted. Fine. At one Takufa, I tried. I was someplace they needed, some yeshiva needed a 12th grade Rebbe in the morning. And I said, oh, is the Rebbe interested? He said, sure, why not? So I said, okay, so could he come down for a problem? And he's going to come listen to the shir. So I said, what should I make up? When? The Rebbe said, he can come anytime he wants. Any shir he wants to pick, it's not a problem. Let him come. You know, we go into the, used to give shir in the library. You sit behind the thing, anytime he wants to come. Now the guy chickened out because he read the Rebbe's credentials, and it said that he was a manal, and he didn't want to get somebody who was a manal already. So it wasn't a game. When the boys were looking forward to Hanukkah shmooze, the next shmooze possible. The Rebbe's mind, Namish, last time he gave the shmooze, they were chedushim. They were always chedushim. Every time, even later, you think he'll just say over something from the Baruch Shoman, or something he said, it was not. He was klar, and he was mechadish all the time. We were hoping to hear more of those kedushin. Shabbos. The Gimel. Wait a minute, the Losam Rav. Yisrael ben Olam Haba. תשמענה אדם מאחריך לאמור. זה הדרך וכו' בואי. אוזנך תשמענה אדם מאחריך לאמור. זה הדרך וכו' בואי. Rashi explains what's macharecha. They go machar is oren. As I saw the mentions haderech l'chubai. With a basement. As I say, so better go haba. Wir alle Talmidim, alle was ihn gekannt. Dem was derech l'chubai. Der Harav Boruch. So given a derech. And everybody wanted to follow it. It wasn't one midah, one ma'isa. But alle free geredet. So given a ganze derech achayim. And yet the eine, das sie gewendet muss, ze a derech l'chubai. Die Gemara sagt, es a kiner mitzvah v'teirar, v'derech chayim t'chachas musar. As the Gemara sagt, Moshel Adam shoylech b'derech. Moshel Adam shoylech ma'alach vishen laila v'afeila misyor min ha'koitzim min ha'pchosim. من أبقالم ومخيرة ومن ألستم بيني يدي بيز الدرخ مالك نزدمنا أبوكا Shalor, somebody who's going by night, who's going in the derech, he doesn't know, he's afraid of falling. And he was afraid, he was afraid from Chayra, and Alistim. Wenn ihr day habez derech malich, nestamal avuka shalor. If he has an avuka shalor, he's nitzel men akaitzim men abchasim. Vaday mesyor michayra men alistim. Wenn ihr day habez derech malich, inshallah mudashach nitzel michayra men alistim. It came the daylight, so a person becomes nitzel michayra men alistim. But I need a vase derech mahalach higia the precious drachim nitzel mikulam. Is the Gemara sagt, what's precious drachim? Das ist Talmud Chacham b'yayim ma'misam. Kiner mitzvah b'ar Torah v'derech achayim techachas musar. A man can live in a leaven and he has ner mitzvah, he does mitzvahs, and there's ar. So right in front of him, he won't fall, he won't trip. But Torah's ar is all amud hashacher, he's not afraid of chayir or unlisted. A begiya the process drachim, das ist tzaddik, das ist Talmud Chacham b'yayim ha'misa. Bis the Yom HaMisa, we're not sure if this is his derech hachayim or it's a person is just b'mikra, he has an or and he has an avuka. But the way to see that this is a derech chayim, the derech that this is the halach hachayim is Yom HaMisa. Till the Yom HaMisa, kol shomer machrav zo aderech l'chuvay, a person that could live his whole life and throughout all different nisyonis, and he's still in the derech chayim techachas musar. It was mentioned before, Baruch mit der ganze Schmeichel, mit der ganze Atzilus, mit der ganze Weichkeit,
the Derech Hayim Techachas Musa geleben mit Gesurim. The Tkufa when I was a Bacher, his Rebbe said Allah Shalom was nifter. It was a gewaltige Avelus, and we thought that the shine, the or of the shiurim, the or of the Simchas HaChaim is going to diminish now. It's not going to be the same. The Rebbe is not going to be the same. We're not going to have the demus of Simchas HaChaim, of Zufriedenkeit, the or in Torah. It's not going to be the same. Of the Derech Hayim Techachas Musa, from every Nisayon that he had, he grew, steiged, and it was the Derech Hayim that he showed us. And by Yom HaMisas we see Zaderech L'chuvai, as the Yeshiva Shlita mentioned, he is in the wheelchair, coming to Yeshiva, having to come on to other Talmidim. He couldn't move around, couldn't function. But the whole personality, the whole Simchas HaChaim is durch the ganze Yisurim. The Simcha was there. Usually a person that's very delicate, a certain refined, eloquent, he had such a malchus to him. As Yisurim come and a person feels he can't be the same aristocratic, you can't have the same covered, the same malchus that he used to have. It gets a bracha. But the Derech Hayim, when did you see that it was the Derech Hayim, that this was his Metzias? And every Oifen is the Chachas Musar, when somebody is able to go through the Yisurim and remain the same and keep on steiging and be able to rise above the ganze Tsar from Chaim, and was always able to live in a different world. His guf was captured. He couldn't move. His guf, but the whole Ruach Chaim, the ganze Simcha that he had. The Rebbe brings down in Baruch Shama in Parshas Shir and Azinu, V'ate kisvulchem es Ashir Azois. Shiras Hazinu is Mala Yisurim, aber Kisvulchem es Ashir Azois. Brings down from the Yeshiva Zatzal that it's brought down that after Kisvulchem Ashir is Kol HaTorah Kula, even though that's him, it's the Ksivas Ashira, but the rest of the Shira needs Torah, the rest of Torah. So the Yeshiva Zatzal is that you find that this Parshas of Tefillin, this Parshas of this Bazunder Parshas, what could be the Derech Drush, Lulei Sayascha Shashua Yozavadati Bani. Wie can sein Parshas Shira, Parshas Azinu could be a Shira of all what Klal Yisrael went through Golus. Das Vatum Kisvulchem es Ashira Azois is only if you have the rest of the Torah of Lulei Sayascha Shashua. A person that's Davuk in Torah is Davuk in Shashui Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He sees a different perspective. He sees the Eibishter Avinu Avar Achamon. He says, Ashiveinu Avinu L'Soy Yosecha V'Korveinu Malkeinu L'Avoy L'Secha. Amelus B'Torah brings out the Hargosha that a person feels it's Avinu, Hashiveinu Avinu L'Soy Yosecha. It's my Father holding my hand, and I know at the end is all the Teivasi. Whatever I'm going through life is a Father that loves me. Mit Ava is you know that this is the Eibishter's Abba Tova. The midas that the Rebbe had was the midah of Alachta B'dracha, Ma'orachum, Apatarachum, Ma'o Chesed, is the way that he looked at the Eibishter's Kol Kuloi Tov, Kol Kuloi Chesed. Any matziv that he went through, he knows that there was Baal HaTov, it was the Baal Chesed that's doing it to him. And he was able to carry himself through and live with the Zelba Simchas HaChayim. the living and learning that pulled him out from the ganze the derech hayim to chachas musar. If Torah is derech hachayim, if Torah is the way of life, and leapt in Torah is a mela, anything a person goes through life is gated with the Eibishter is holding on to him. The Rebbe gave us over such a geschmack in Torah. We young Bachrim, so I can say that you weren't used to the first year you come out, you're not used to learning all day. 5:30 to be able to get Bachrim Arangeton and Bircha Shmuel. You had a way of saying over a Baruch Bemet Azagishmak. These Seides and Lomdes, he was so lichtig. Learned Noid Yehudis, but he had a hekif and Svarim that not the regular Svarim. I mean, the Noid Yehudis and all the Chuvas used to barf. It was so geschmack that 5:30 of the Mamish Vashlaf and 8 we were able to be Mechayos, the geschmack and the Shashum of Torah, that is gemont, that is no to live the Seder, that geschmack and Shashum of Torah. The Rebbe taught us that a person with all grace Yeshivas, but a person has to be zufrieden with himself. It was more than zufrieden with himself. The gewaltige Zufriedenkeit. You see in the Akdama, when he writes over there that he had friends that went to learn by Baron, and he was Zeichet, he went to learn by Yeshiva Zatzal, and he writes in every step of his life how proud that he did this. He brings in the pasuk, "Eloi me'ever hayom men shemeinin." That's lachas in Eretz Yisrael. It's me'ever hayom. It's beficha b'vavcha l'asoisai. Person has to see the Eibishter gives a person the opportunity minei ubei to steig. The person always looks at his matzav that he's in now. He's always looking to change. He's looking for a different matzav. It's going to be better later. It's going to be better at a different time. Person never is able to take in every matzav that he has. This is a matzav the Eibishter gave me. This is where I'm supposed to steig. Brings down, and I see the Yarif Kamota Likhi Tizal Katalim Rasi. As Torah has a bechin of Tal and Torah has a bechin of Motor. You see Marlideshan Fribim Aliesev. So he brings down that Chazal say that when a person comes to Yom Adin, if he has Mikra, they ask him why doesn't he have Mishnah? If he has Mishnah, why didn't he have Gemara? And it goes on, weiter bis Maisar Makova. As he brings down, why don't we ask the person has Mikra, why didn't you have Maisar Makova? The person is supposed to be able to get up to Maisar Makova. What's up this frakt and no Mishnah? They stop over there. So he brings down, he says that a person is supposed to go step by step, madrega acha madrega. If a person is always jumping above his madregas, then he falls. He's never happy, he never reaches his goals. A person is supposed to always be steiging, or chaim l'mazl maskil, is supposed to be the next madrega, go up the next step, go up the next step. And be secure in that madrega, don't jump and don't fall down. Don't keep on going up and down and falling. It was a gewaldige simchas achayim, and he was happy, and he knew there's a plan, there's a derech, and a person has to take that mahalach. The person has to take it mahalach, but has to be solid. Be zufrieden with your accomplishments. It was moerdike zufriedenkeit, moerdike simcha. He had an ayin toiva on other people, but he had an ayin toiva on himself. He was zufrieden. And he gave over, he radiated in this Beis Medrash that aur of zufriedenkeit, of feeling accomplished, she'ifis, but realistic she'ifis. Gemara says, another thing is, Eze ben Olam Haba, is kosher Abosav Noichei Menu. As was mentioned before, kosher Abosav Noichei Menu, the way the Rebbe describes, he always spoke about his Rebbeim, and he felt that he's living a shlichus. He's living a shlichus, and the Yeshiva Zatzal, and the Yeshiva Shtel how he should give over second Seder, living with the shlichus from his Rebbeim in RJJ. The person lives with that shlichus his whole life. He was living up to the muzyuknam of his Rebbeim. This is something that we Talmidim have to go and we have to live with. Of l'chu, zu haderech, l'chu ba. This is the derech we always have to keep alive and vivid. The muzduknai of our Rebbe, the muzduknai of steiging, of simchas achayim, of constantly the Harvanian Torah, as brought mentions in every matzav, to be able to utilize the matzavim. The Rebbe should be a meditation for all of the Talmidim and the Mishpacha, was so dedicated and devoted, always there for him. Maybe should meditation on his Rebbetzin, who took care of him. Yoimam V'layla was there, taking care of the Mesiras Nefesh throughout all the Shperkaiten. Was there and gave, we owe the Hakaras HaTov, he gave the Rebbe to us, that he could have Vaita be with us in Yeshiva and be Mamshech, with the Vaita, with the same Ruach Hayim, with the same Simcha, with the same Dveikus and Torah and Avodah. So we be Lamavas L'Netzach Amach Hashem Dimam Al Kaponim B'nai Marav.
Rabbi Ram Yitzchak Shem.
If somebody could pick up some weight that weighs 1,000 pounds, you're not going to give him a weight to pick up 100 pounds. We know he already picked up 1,000 pounds. Take him in the sign of Ukazdim, that the sign was a lovely letters up be thrown into Ukazdim, into the fire, the ends of the Torah Kiddush. To lose his whole life, then the Torah Kiddush. Afterwards, coming out of the sign, what's the next sign? Next sign, Levaya of Harav. Somebody has to go to another country. Most of them, they shred. They go to another country. A lot of people travel from one country to another country. You find the fact that they used to tell them that's who they're going is there for the money. What does the person do to the there for the money? And so many other haftarah stories that Moshe told them over here. Why is this a bigger sign than the sign of Ukazdim? I think you put down the cash, I'm not so sure. You get a chance to look it up. But I said, look at that many years ago. I don't remember when I said it happens. But the Chayra comes on the test like this. There's a very big napkin in it. The Levaya of Harav, Ukazdim was in the saying that nobody wants to be killed. Nobody wants to be thrown into fire. It's the Yisurim until a person gets killed. And then after he gets it, means his whole life. Who wants to have such a such a thing happened to him. So it's a sign of the Staten was a Christian. The Staten didn't care if I've ever been in films of the fire. He didn't talk him into a whole don't go, don't listen, don't be the Christian after Shakir. The Staten didn't stress. Why? Because the Staten was very happy. I've been going to fire. He won't be Mashmiad against it. The Staten was very much slick at the answer. Hey guys, listen to him. The remember that with his other. And with the Mala, Rabin was coming and he's making a lot of trouble. He's stopping everybody. So Harav Boruch, we kill that kid with fire for the Hashem. They won't have any problems with them to continue very good. So the Staten didn't come to stab him. But when the Banisham told Harav Boruch, Lachal Chamayat, what's going to be best for the Gadol, that came out to me, Akayis, Ababech, the Shmacha, what's the other Harav, Yeshiva, the Yang was going to come out, Kabbalah Torah, and Kedashim and Tahirim, and come out against the Akayis, so Moshe and Avram, Yisrael, Yankin, Moshe and Aaron, Kahal, Levin, Yisrael, and Levin, all the daily Hadar from Al-Adaitis, Tanoim, Amenoim, all the so that the certain the Shem is not letting. And not letting. Now, how does the certain come to our value? That's something that I guess we can't understand. I'm sure we can understand it. How does it come to our value? But the certain knows how to handle every single person in the world. He knows how to handle. But the value must have come with very stark Sachen Chesef. She told us, give me an idea, told them, you won't this, you'll say the place, who knows, it won't be a first one, who knows what the mountain is up. And just Palaman said, he came with very stark attacks, we can't understand. And Mahatsa told me to something, and it's a very stark Sachen, especially this is the worst thing from Shesh's regulations that could have happened to the Satan that I've ever been to go to Hesed. Then we have a Malik Hashbot, that's Klai, so we're going to come out from him. That is a Chabek, it's not Al Klaichus. Of the Urkastim, there's again a sign, I remember it was very to Moshe Navish Kiddush Hashem, of the Natis. We see in America, there's a big shayla. If you go back to the old times, when the Baruch was young yet, and this is before that also, but when it was young also, is the United States of America had Yidden all over the United States. I don't remember, there must be a few million Yidden was it. And there was a lot of children, hundreds of thousands of children, and there was no yeshivas. Come out, no yeshivas against America. At least 2, 3, 4 yeshivas in Manhattan, Shishlayim, the Yosef, behind that, a few small yeshivas. How big were the yeshivas? There were people in the United States that didn't even know there's such a yeshiva. Somebody told me, came from Texas, he didn't even know there's such a thing as a yeshiva. Right in the morning channel, there's such a thing as a yeshiva. So he sent his children to come, I think he said to Yeshua, if I'm not mistaken. But the mice said, they didn't even know there's a yeshiva. Of the shuls, you had all over the United States of America. All over the shuls. And the east side itself, they had the place to show many shuls. I built the shuls. You had the shtetl had a shul there. The people that sent all went to shul, the kids, everybody went to public school. If somebody went to yeshiva, many times they were ashamed to say they went to yeshiva. Ashamed to say they went to yeshiva. You got to public school, you become a base to lawyer, base to Tossi, base to Yensa. What are you going to become out to love? Nobody wants to vote. Well, how are you going to get supported? Is yeshivas. They didn't have the shuls all over the United States. There's no city in the United States that had Yidden, that had nice shuls, nice big shuls. Now they're all empty, they're trying to place. Maybe yeshivas should come and take over it. But the Maisa, why is it that yeshivas, there are no yeshivas, only shuls all over the United States? But the test, I think, is very partial. Because the Satan knew how to handle. They didn't care if there's going to be shuls. Somebody told me there was a much of a certain shtetl, Pope remained, and in his time, there was an incident they called Yerushalayim the American. There were a few children there, and they learned before Shachris and not Shachris, on family, Cholach, Mitchol, Gomor, Mitchol, Tenekim, Chayodam, but all these different kind of things, a yeshiva they didn't have them. There was an elder here that told them, if you won't make a yeshiva, all your children are going to end up wearing sheets of very rain. And they didn't listen to him. This person, his father was a Chmeister Nefesh, and he sent him to SSL many years ago, I think it was in 1929 or something, 1931, I think. But the man said, he got saved. What happened to all those people? Nothing happened, there was no chinuch, so they had no chesed. What I'm going from that is the main thing that sounds like a better starts about yeshivas. Anybody had a shaykhis in making yeshivas, if that has a gevaldik here, you don't know, it's not to have the schus of the person. The Chazal say that we got no schus of Yehsiva. If there comes a schus from, you see, a schus comes from somebody, you know there is a zakai. The Baruch had a very big schus. We should mention that he had a very big yad in the yeshiva over here, right? And that's how it's a yeshiva. When the yeshiva started, they had a very big yad to see that the Yehsiva is like a shotgun, or whatever. I don't know all the guns but I had a very big yad in the yeshiva. The yeshiva academician that came out, so much Torah from the yeshiva, so many yeshivas came out from this yeshiva, so many Rabbanim, so many Magid Yeshivanim came out from this yeshiva academician. And the Baruch had a big shaykhis in the Askham Sanashim. The Manham Bemis Chus, and I think it's a Bemis Harav is Chus. And Bemis, we also have to have a Kodesh HaTayv. We're all manner from the Yeshiva. All manner from Yeshiva is supposed to have a special Kodesh HaTayv that we have to have, and then we have to have for the Yehsiva Baruch. Besides that, like we mentioned before, everybody had a know from the Shiurim, from the, I used to go myself a lot of times, and before Yom Tov, I used to try to go to listen to Shiurim. It was everything very geschmack. He knew how to make something, how to get rid of with that geschmackheit. But only about darshan and sign the drashes and sign in the learning, and Baruch said it, they gave very geschmack. It came from the Baruch, all the Baruch, they became geschmack. Sometimes even the Baruch is coming, and Mishen Lach geschmeichelt. The Baruch is saying, Mishmur, Shir, Mishen, it was Musamech, that we mentioned before. Musamech, we mentioned, was Mechazik them decided. So there is a Hofen that should be a meditation for the Emes Chashem Mishpacha, and to meditation for the Rebbetzin, and meditation for the whole Yeshiva, and meditation for the whole Klal Yisrael. שבזכר מהארץ ולשלמה ומח השם דימו מהל כפרם.
Rabbi from Ackerman.
It says it's a mitzvah gedolah to say a hesped, but you have to say karoi. So I feel shine ben mechila, and I'm not shy to say a hesped on the baruch. Zakol, not shy. We have no atzog in him, but he was a lebedak, the lebedika mensch, when Allah lebedika mensch. Whoever saw him wanted to learn Torah. Still remember the first year I was sitting by, many years ago, and he was saying it was a word and something, I don't remember what. And I said, Rebbe, it's an open Gemara Bababash and Nishtazet. So he turned to me, and instead of answering me, he said, Avrom, Len Stiba Bababash. That was it. What can I say? People live in the ganze Bababash. It's small, you know. So I was stuck. I couldn't ask the question. I thought he was going to ask me where. So at least I'll have something to talk and I'll be able to say, no, Avram, Leonard, Gans Bababash. I can't come back till I learn the whole Bababash. It's Asheram Eisen. That leved the Gemensch. Et gelebt Torah
He was living in his shiurim. You were mechaya nefesh when you came to his shir, because he was living. Why didn't he have burnout? Because he was the shir. How could he have burnout? He is the shir. I mentioned this is the shir alein. Can he have burnout? Stop breathing? No, most people try to breathe. It's not shy. But that flip. That's Harav Boruch. Be this Taivas, except the Shulchan Aruch. You should say to me this Taivas. I was wondering, how come the Rebbeinu Shalom took our favorite Rebbe away? This Marston. What did he see? I looked through the Marston. The Rebbeinu Shalom loves Avraham Avinu. Why does Hashem love Avraham Avinu? Because he teaches his children the Derech HaYosher. The Rambam says in Deis, the Derech HaYosher, the Derech. Who knows who the middle of Derech is? Doesn't he in the middle of Derech? That's why Hashem loves him. Without beyond all love, and we love him also. Who doesn't love Rabbah? The Rebbe. We miss him. We miss them. We're waiting for him to go back to Yeshiva. He says, coming back. Not coming back. Only when Tchias HaMesim happens. The Falcons, the Geist, that Neshama. Everybody needs chizik. Every time I saw him, it was a chizik. I remember by the last wedding we were going together. He was in his wheelchair, Nebuch. So he had to leave. So I said, okay, Rebbe, I can take you, I have a car here. So he said, okay, good. So wait a minute, I have to dance. He has to dance, he has no feet. He can't dance. What do you mean dance? Take me with the wheelchair. So we were dancing with the wheelchair around with the chassan there in the middle, pushing it away, banging around everybody. The Rebbe has to dance, and Muz dance. He has to dance. Then we went to the car, and took his wheelchair, probably put it in the car, and we went to his house. There in the house, he showed his godless. He stood up and he was walking. His wife, so loving Zunzai. She gave him chiyas. I want you to know, I personally thank her. Thank you for the years she gave us. It's beyond all years. You were Mesim Chaim, and the healing in the Shabbat. And he had a few more years of Chaim, and a few more shmuzim that he gave. Thank you. Thank you, Rebbetzin, for what you did for us. I wish you could have pushed a little bit more. What should I do? But Shemlish Gewalt. Be mispal. Midas Taivas. You all know the story, I'll tell it again. There was once a machlokes between his first Rebbetzin Malka, and his mother. What was the machlokes? They're both standing, they came to the place, and there was a question what portion to give to the father. So the Malka said he likes the top of the bird, the bottom of the bird. I don't remember the English, the Irish, whatever it was. I don't remember which was which. And then his mother was there. Allah Shalom. So she says, no. Harav Boruch likes this side. And she says, no. Irish not interested, whatever, the top of the bird, the bottom of the bird. So like this, there's no machriya. Who be machriya between the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law? So they called her Boruch to be the referee. So then the ice of the Soit came out. What was the Soit? You all know the story. I'm not telling you about your father. You know your father. The Soit was that the Boruch found out what Rebbetzin Malka likes before he got married. And he couldn't afford more than half a bird. So when his wife was into Rebbetzin Malka, he said, Boruch, what do you like? So he said the opposite way. So he was able to get the thing he doesn't like, and she got the thing she likes. What chesed? He's not doing chesed. He likes this. But I get at the Rebbetzin. He likes it. He's like Rav Chia, but backwards. There was an interesting zah. And then his mother says,
He likes the other one. Which one do you really like? He said, I really like the other one, but I asked for this one because so my wife should have the one she likes. They both like the same part. That's chesed. That's chesed. Nobody knows it. It never would have been if his mother wasn't there and the Rebbetzin wasn't together there fighting it out. They were shviga with the mother-in-law. We never would have found out the story. That's chesed. Find out what someone likes and say, I like the other thing. You only have one glass of Kool-Aid and he likes the certain color. You tell him I like the other color. And you drink the thing you don't like. Oh, that's chesed. No one knows. There's other shmeichels and there's other Boruch. The same singing the same as mirrors. Also the Zelda. It's a Kleinigkeit, but it shows you. Looking and nobody has to know. Fanfare to a well, you know, I really like this one, but I'll be nice to that for you. Isn't that nice of him? That's what he didn't want to do. He wanted to make himself who he is. His sablonis. I saw his sablonis with a bunch of chutzpah by Hashem should be moichel them, and you be Rebbe be moichel them. I'm sure you weren't in Akron in the first place, but I was there. It was Purim, and I was passed a few bottles. So I said to her, Rebbe, I was sitting right next door to my Shveh's house. Was the Rebbe's house. His house is right next door to my Shveh. So I came next door, and I said, this guy, he wears a gartel, huh? I'm gonna hang him from the chandelier with the gartel. So I was running after his gartel, I got his gartel, and Rebbe said, Rebbe said, the Rebbe says to me, no, don't do it, you killed the chandelier. you can't do it. But he was so, I couldn't believe it. I wanted to kill the guy on the spot, but it's a good thing. You know, come Rabbi and Shachter saying, I can imagine. I didn't have the sword. I wasn't making leaving sack to figure out which is which, according to the law. But the Pashut Pshat is, I wanted to kill the guy in Mechutzah to the Rebbe. I wanted to finish him, especially after a couple of battles. What's the big deal? One murder, big deal. But the idea he was saying, completely, no, leave him alone. He doesn't know. The guy ran for his life afterwards, because I had his capital, and he ran for his life, so he was out. I said, okay, now we could travel a little bit, so we sit in Purim. That was on my way to Rav Gershon's house, the problem over there. So, but the idea was the Savlons, oh, that's not Potter. No, leave him alone. Loves Bali Midas and loved people that were. You're looking for the words for him. He was the conductor. He was the conductor of this shir. When he came into the shir, this one's the fiddle, and this one's the bass, and this guy's a drum, and this guy's a clutch, but everybody was different. And he knew when you have to shoot the cannon. You know, sometimes by a symphony, they shoot a cannon. He knew when to shoot the cannon also. It was all part of the shir. And it gelebt in their shir. And it uns of gelebt. Like they were saying before, it's a hard time in the day to give a shir because the kids are knocked out. To make it levendig. And like Rav Gershon told me, he's pearls. He takes the Rishonim. He takes the Achrayim. He puts them together. This down by Svaras. He has it all from the Rishonim and Achrayim. He puts it all together with a symphony. It's a gate. It's a gate from Zech. Guinness Verod. You could think we all wanted to Guinness Verod. Who knew the Guinness Verod he was shooting out? Throws it like Massifarful. Everything's under this bug. We know one or two Mishnah. The Mishnah Berurah will be twice in Mishnah Berurah, so you know those two Guinness Verod. You know something else. Who knows anything else? Guinness Verod. Who learns Guinness Verod? He learned Guinness Verod. Like they said, he had a Magrith and everything. That he adapted to know the middle derech and the off-tight is the achnosis orchim that he had. He had people by his table that you wouldn't have by your table. You'd be embarrassed to have them there. They were semi-normal, semi-not. They were missing a few screws here and there. He would have them there. He would take care of them. And then when the guy would leave, he would say, you know, it's a mitzvah to give him money. He said, Rebbe, why is it a mitzvah to give him money? He's running around with a Cadillac. Why do you give him money? Why do you have to give him money? No, this is his little niche that he has, that he owns Cadillacs.
So give him the extra money so he can afford the gas and he feels better. Give me $1. So you gave him $1. So he feels you're wasting $1. I have as a the favorite. And he was the favorite Rav. He was the favorite Rav. Tzirei Agosh Yisrael. The Akofis of Tzirei Agosh Yisrael from the Alta Staten. Where was it a place that for us Yeshiva Bochum that we didn't have a Yeshiva during the Sukkot? Where did we go? Everybody went to the Tzirei Agosh Yisrael. Here was the place. Besides that, we went to learn there. We went to have our covers there, inside, outside. We were to give a Kiddush Hashem, a ganze Kiddush Hashem. Beyond my haim, when there wasn't so many Kiddush Hashem going around, it wasn't always the same thing. Gedacht, gelernt, getanzt. Gewinnt the Tanzerei, the ganze Tanzerei, der Boruch. If I can only take him out for another minute to give him a kiss. I miss him so much. It's impossible. You couldn't get there. You couldn't even go. You couldn't call. He's not ready. He's not coming. He's not. You can't come. It's not shaykh. Okay, Baruch Hashem. We had him so many years. He can't be a chazan. You know. You have him. The Rebbeinu Shalom gewollt. Geht mir der Rebbeinu Shalom. Das ist das Teure. Rabbi Shel Yisrael, like they were saying before. He knew the guys, he measured the guys. His first wife had to make shidduchim, all putting one thing with the other, help out people, let them get married, help them speak by their chasen, speak by their Sheva brachas, take care of them, the Rabbi Shel Yisrael. On Shabbos HaGodel, when we were there, so he would take the Chofetz Chaim. The Chofetz Chaim ended up being a Lomdish Yeshiva. Of course he is. But not everybody understands. But you heard his Shabbos HaGodel drasha. How was he? He was talking to people that he couldn't talk too much. But he was Megala Soid a little bit. He opened up the kapot and you could see what's going on in there. Everything that's in there from all the Gemaras and how the Chofetz Chaim puts it this way, and this way. And he's going right down the sleeve with the halacha l'maisa. So we talk that poisik. This and the wissen and hoba a ganze hecke from the ganze sukkah. People in Mishnah Berurah like, backwards. They don't know how to read it. They don't know what it says. They didn't learn the Gemara, so they don't know what's going on. So how are you supposed to? But he knew how to. Even again with the Sharat Siyum together with and back and forth and the pilpul inside of the Ver Alocha. You give in a pilpul shir, give in a Shabbos HaGodel shir. Because he didn't want to take up the time, so he only made it during the davening for a few minutes. He was the Zeh Keli Bambei. He was the one who knew how to do Zeh Keli. Everything he did shined. Everything, I'm jealous of him. Everything, if he took all the monastic, it was shining. It was learning Torah. I don't know, I didn't ask any of his children, but I don't think he ever told them to learn. They saw him all the time and learned and doesn't stop learning. There's only one time in the Heilig camp, Nebuch, there was a tragedy that the thing fell down. The whole front of the place where the boats come in, whatever, fell down. The whole dock fell down. And they came in, he was in the middle of learning. What's he doing the whole day? Whole day he's sitting and learning the whole summer. And everybody sees the way to ask what you're supposed to do during summertime. Watch him learn. They say, Rebbe, the dock fell down. Go on, hold the Gemara, jumped over to the Aron HaKodesh, opens the Aron HaKodesh, starts saying Tillim to the Aron HaKodesh, get left with the Rebbeinu. He's not a solo member. Whoever's trying to, all the people that were lifeguards went to the place. I wasn't there. I heard this over, what he did. And he's saying Tillim straight. And he's not stopping until the last person is found and everybody's all right. And the time goes over. Didn't lose himself. Didn't say it's a thing. I have to go see. He's in charge. I have to see. No, but the friends and the boy yet. Open the Aron HaKodesh and talk to the Rebbeinu. I wish I was there just to see it. Just to watch him talking to the boy Rebbeinu should help us. That we should try to steig a little bit to be like Rebbe. Halavai, we should be able to get to his ankles, in his tiefkeit, and in his Torah, and in his yira, And the other side of people didn't know about it because Yiras Hashem. You ever meet him, Erev Yom Kaddish? Meet him for a minute. What he looks like to Yiras Hashem that he has on him. The whole time it's special, but now it was busy business. It was real business. He was the real him comes out. You see who he really is. All the Torah made such a change in him. Like they said, constant steiging all the time. He's learning. He doesn't do anything else. He used to go home. He used to have everything ready. His first Eish Yisrael, his second Eish Yisrael. Everybody's preparing for he'd be able to sit and learn. That's the whole life, sitting and learning. So I think he came home. He went home 6:30 after his shir. He was home by 7 or 7:15. That was on traffic. 7:10, whatever. 10 minutes later or 15 minutes later, he's back by his sefer. That's those given 11. So what did the kids see? The kids see learning. The male event is that's the best. The osmosis, as Reuben always says, the osmosis. Give over the osmosis. Not just talking to schmoozing. Let it see what you want to do. What are you doing? Reading a magazine? Reading a magazine. Waste of time. You could learn. But that's what he showed. He showed that. The Kindle knew that you have to be about Torah. Baruch Hashem. There's a Torah Yevor. There's a lot more to say. I didn't have enough time because I had to prepare a shiur also today. So it was hard for me to sit down and map out my whole mind. Baruch Hashem should help should become Mele Chaser for his family, for his wonderful family, for his Rebbetzin. She shouldn't be well. Thank you for everything you did. And the Rebbe should help that this should be the end of all deaths. Go upstairs, Rebbe, tell them enough. Die, it's enough. Let's have a ready Mashiach and get on rolling. Get on to the next stage over here. We'll go to Olam Haba a little bit. And a bunch of help. You be the most. And that's it. Baruch Hashem, Dimah Alcohol.
Not counting the
Even from the Talmudim, someone's already has Talmudim that were more than Talmudim with the Torah. I'll just say over different perspectives from being a Talmud. It said on the sign of Nofla Torah Rishein. The Baruch Hu is the midah of Malchus that was spoken about. The Morris Man Malki Rabbanu, his Anhoga was Anhoga, but Malchus said Anhoga. Everything was done with a tremendous Shenkheit that's roy for a Malach. At the same time, there was a tremendous Ne'imus. It was also spoken about, the tremendous Ne'imus. And he was a tremendous simcha little person that went together with all this. There's a bar from the Chazon Ish on the Mishnah and Avos that says, the Mishnah ends off, there was someone in Bnei Brak that came to the Chazon Ish where the mice went that the father wanted his son to be at Yeshiva, the son was in Yeshiva, the father let him go for 1 year. After a year, the Baruch wanted to stay, his son wanted to stay in Yeshiva. So the father wanted him to make a parnasa. I let you go for 1 year, now it's time to make a parnasa. The Baruch said, I want to stay in Yeshiva. So they were asking him to go to the Chazon Ish to be a Machriel. The Chazon Ish said, the Mishnah says, so the Chazon Ish asked 2 kashas. He said, number one, how is a child to say Ashach Bel Mazeh? This person is passing out. How can you say it's Ashach Bel Mazeh? And zweitens, what's the lashon of Mishnah Mata Isakim? So Chazanish said, he told the father, and he gave the father a mashal. He said, if you try to describe to a blind person a color, so take a color, who try to describe it to a blind person? He said, it's not shy to describe it to him. But the second he gets, if he has his eyesight, that second he'll be able to chap right away exactly what the color is. He said that by Torah, he told the father, he said that Torah, when someone has Torah, it's the most, there's nothing else. It's the biggest, Ashrecha B'El Mazeh when someone has Torah. But I can't be masber to you, told the father. The only way it's shaykh to someone, you have to be Torah. You have to do it. Once you're Torah, if you see, once you're there, you see there's nothing else. That's Lashon HaMishnah. If you do it, then you chap the Ashrecha B'El Mazeh. You told the father that your son was Torah, after you take it away, so you're never going to chap what it is, but your son was Torah, after you take it away. By Baruch, we remind us this Ashrecha B'El Mazeh. He always walked around with Tazah Simcha. Also, was spoken about the Frischkeit was, he came every day for the whole second Seder. He would sit over here in the front. Mamish was such a Frischkeit in the learning and the shir. I remember once he was giving a shir and he was saying over, he said, I think it was Yeshiva from Reb Chaim. And it could be it was the end of a long day. The oil wasn't shtelling so nicely. He told the oil, he said, I harped on this 10 hours before I'm saying this over. He was trying to get the oil to shtel suit what he was saying. He said that he said I worked this 10 hours before I'm saying this over. The Karkai of the Shiurim was Lahafli, the Shiurim and the Shmuzin. I remember the first shmuz I heard from him, he was talking all about different Chazal and how the Torah is going to Chal, to Yain, to Mayim. It was given over with such an eimus, the way he gave it over. Walking out of that shmuz, I remember how much it went in, because he gave it over with such an eimus, such a Clarkite. Yeshiva mentioned before about the fact that we showed the care for each Talmud. There was something the miyuchad about him, that even though we said before he had a malchus stick on Haga, but the covet he gave for each Talmud, for each Bacher was unique. He was mechabed. He gave a covet for each Talmud. He felt he was mechabed. Sometimes someone who was more of a malchus stick mensch, you feel that he can't give cover to other people. He has all the cover. But Fakart, the Mishnah says, the person who has the real mechuber, the kemench, is someone who's mechaber sabrius. But he was mechaber each Talmud. He gave each Talmud the cover to feel what their potential is to carry it out. And he was the most mechuber the kemench, as we were saying before. Even the way he was noyed, I saw him being noyed in front of a lot of people, and even there was not so many people there. It was the same anhaga, it was the same malchus anhaga, at the same time giving that tremendous cover to each Talmud.
Rav Shlomo Eisenberg.
Shabbos, steht in Gemara in Shabbos, Chol Misatzel, Vespeda Shel Chacham, Roy L'Choyvroi, V'chayim. Roy L'Choyvroi, V'chayim. Misatzel Vespeda Shel Chacham is Roy L'Choyvroi, V'chayim. It's not Dovim Mishunah, Visa Mishunah, something that upon Islam we have a Muslim over the last year, what that means, Roy L'Choyvroi, V'chayim. Was sucht man da? Marshal sagt, as the Mida Kedeged Mida is if you're not massively the Godel, the Pshat is you're keeping him Chai. By you he's Chai, he's still Chai. Even though he's mace, you're keeping him Chai. A person who wants a Godel is Avek, Adam Choshev is Avek, he still looks at him, he's still alive. I don't have to talk about his milas, I don't have to talk about his chashivas. There's no. He's not machshiv that he's aved. That he has to see what that is, to be in a matzav of chayil, but be the kevin. What's mean Marshal? We have to verstehen, when Adam Gadol is weg, when Adam Kosher is weg, when Adam Kosher is weg, a Rebbe is weg, that he's weg. And until we talk about his miles, until we talk about something that we can take, and we take away from it, that means we don't verstehen that he left. Every hesped is looking for what's missing now. And until we verstehen there's something missing, then we don't verstehen is weg. Every maspid has nachrayas, and every has nachrayas to look. What's going to be missing now? What does Yeshiva not have? What do the Talmidim not have? What does Klal Yisrael not have? It's Chazal, in the Mishnah, in Staten, in Shtazavek, Shemeis Rebbe is Pascal Moshe L'Shalim, Shemeis Ben Azai. Chazal had a kaya to taicha. What a mention was, what a Tana was. These prices. The kaya Chazal had. Chazal were able to do that. What's that price? How is a master supposed to be able to do that? Is the Emerson, there were a lot of tkufas in the Talmidim. And as was mentioned, the Kalman mentioned, in the Talmidim, there are G'dolei Olam. Just by one of the shmuzim, the last tkufa, so I was in the library, so I was on the side with the bacher. So you feel a little bit like you're from the older Talmidim almost. You're from the bacher, you see there by the shmuz, and then in the library is in an L, and you walk around the side, and you see sitting over there from G'dolei, from Chashuvim. And you realize that there's kufis and there are Talmidim that there's every kufa and every town that has to have their own uptouch. But I want to say the hergish that I have. How takas, there's so many different, in the Talmidim of the Rebbe, how takas, there's so many different personalities. From Laspid Valay, you see, and from knowing the Talmidim, how do you have so many different types of Talmidim that all call you the Rebbe? Interesting. Usually you have, one yeshiva has a look. Hamal used to be, so he learns the vodka, he learns the Vardik. How is there someone who's, so many people call the Rebbe and they're so different? What type of mechanech is that? As a mechanech taka, someone was telling me, he recently mentioned to Talmidim, that he once had a Talmud who had the cup of Reb Kivei. But he didn't keep up and check up where he was. He just wanted to know, he didn't know where he is, and where is he in the belt? It's Rav Simcha Maim. He was in 7th grade. A Machana was able to see in 7th grade a godless alumnus that in a 7th grade he was able to see there's something tremendous here. So how he was able to see the Talmud, and that's not my shayla. But how were the Talmud able to see the Rebbe? How were we able to get this out? So I want to say one heritage. I was speaking to, a few years ago, someone asked me about Yeshiva, Staten, how's it going? Was the matzah there? And he was in Yeshiva, but he left after a certain kufa here. He asked me, what's with the Baruch Shiru? I said, I don't think it's the Imamshik. So he told me, it's one of the greatest one from my age group. He told me, my ganze Geschmack in learning is from the Baruch Shiru. The Geschmack in learning is from the Baruch Shiru. The Goyim, it's gebracht, the Goyim on Simchas Torah, when the Sefer Torah were out, he was Mechaker, he was jumping. Harav Boruch, every single day was Simchas Torah, every studio was Simchas Torah. How many times did he tell you a svara? And he was so exploding with Geschmack, he'd have to stamp his feet, and he'd have to move, and he'd have to do just, and it was right in the zach, with the full Geschmack. I'm looking, I've seen Talmidim, we're not going to be zeichet to be in a shir. The Bachim who came, they never saw him, they never, the word in zeichet is Roya Rebbe, Remeir Me'achayrav. They don't even know what it means, that Geschmack. That say a svara and ask the suf, and everyone wants to just hear what he's saying, it's just with such a geschmack. That's what he gave the Talmidim. Everyone with their kaiches was able to become what they were, because they had the geschmack that he gave. How Torah was chiyas, Torah was chayim alei, not Torah gives you a geschmack, now we have a geschmack. Torah is the chefza von geschmack. And that's something that till we verstehen, at least to be able to look for to understand what's missing and to try to find it ourselves. Nonetheless, to verstehen, the was learning second Seder, the matzah that we have, the matzah that is, it's shalom shalom. The way you start out the matzah in Yeshiva, that everyone's learning what the geschmack, what their geschmack is. And they're looking for azag geschmack in learning. He writes back in the Akdama that it was the mahal that he was telling Avek is that you could turn a second Seder into an Eshta Seder. He had a second Seder was Amkus Gadol. But the Nekuda was the geschmack. And you have to have that geschmack. And you have to see that geschmack with leptos. I learned Psachim by the Rebbe. So I was speaking it over with one of the other Talmidim from the Shir then. He told me, Psachim, we were lucky because Psachim Istama was the most Gishmak Shir because Psachim was also, he had all his from the Rabbanis and he had this Shiurim and this Shiurim. And I was talking to one of the Einikov today. He told me that Rav told him that his Gishmak and learning came from Meseches Nedarim because the Rishonim, all the Rishonim are there in front of him. Nothing to do with Meseches Psachim. Has nothing to do with Meseches Bava Metzia. Every shtickle, every sugya had a geschmack, and he was able to give that over. That's the nekuda that I want to say. That we have to realize what's missing, and it's something that we don't have anymore. And that's our chiyuv hesper. Every person has to find what they have. But that's the haggish that I have. You know, so that's not.
Harav Boruch.
Not a hespel. I was just a little while ago, just to say some memories. I know that you could be Michael. When I was younger, I davened in the Tzirei. I see many faces here, even from them. I appreciated so much the davening. It was a time when people were not so interested in davening, especially the young people. I once heard from one of the Gainim of the Frierdiker Torah that there were certain people who were chosen to give me the Meistrei HaTorah that the Rambam enumerates. He says, why were they chosen more than others? There were other Gainim then also. So he said, because they had the Messiah HaTorah. Rebbe, we mentioned, for instance, that time in Camp Magen Avraham, when it collapsed, and he opened the Aron Kodesh, he wasn't just saying Tehillim, he was crying Tehillim. We say Slichas, today was Bahab. So we say Slichas, some were saying the words, some we mimicked the words, some were imitating. When he davened, you felt his heart. He was the Lev HaTorah, the Ruach HaTorah. Everybody loved him because he transmitted the Torah of his Rebbeim. He lived it.
He imitated them. This was not his own. You felt you were alive. We saw in front of us. Gedolei Olam, who he spoke about his rebellion. Baruch Elokeinu Shabron Levaydai. He was imitating his rebellion. He lived it. This was not a time when this was in style, in vogue. People in those days were not interested in these things. How did it happen? I went to the house, I became so enamored. I went to the house and the first thing I saw, whoever's here in the family, was just like a poor setting. But it was so nicely set up. And I came there 7 o'clock. We got home from the Yeshiva, like Rabbi Avraham said. I went to the house for some reason, I don't know why. 7:10, he started eating supper. At 7:20, he was learning. Learning. He was someone I could relate to. I saw he didn't, I know, maybe they say he was about, he's about Kishrin. I don't know that. It looked to me like he was hurrying. He made himself into a Baal Kishrin. He loved the Torah. He loved his rebellion, the way he would talk about them. And not only that, I saw the derech eretz that he had. I would think, it's hard for me to say this, but he saw Gedolim, he saw the Rosh Yeshiva, anyone who had any shadows to Rosh Yeshiva, everyone else was like, I heard Reb Shmuel Birnbaum talk about the Rosh Yeshiva. He said in Yiddish, he been like a baby. He said, a baby. I was a baby to Rosh Yeshiva. Anybody felt like that? Yet, he spoke about with such kavod about other Gedolim, younger, much younger. But he had this kavod for Gedolim, kavod for people. And not just Gedolim, he had kavod for regular Balabatim, Chashiva Balabatim. I remember, these are my own impressions. We were taught in Yeshiva at that time, they had to push this learning, and you have to be a Ben Torah, and they were Mavato Balabatim. They felt at that time that we have to have this drive. I'm told he's talking about his brother-in-law, Mr. Lefkowitz, and he spoke so glowingly about him. Someone who supports Torah, someone who supports Yiddishkeit. He would talk about it as if I'm Adam Gadol. And that's the way I felt. He respected everybody. He respected anybody and he tried to bring them up to the level. And I saw the way he treated his family, the way he dealt with the family. He was such an inspiration to me. At that time, people were running after luxuries and were brought up. It was a different world, Borough Park. It was not like now, as they mentioned before about going to Chalamoid. I remember with my Chaverim, we went to Chalamoid to look for a place to learn. Every shul was locked. There was no one there. The shuls were locked, except that Tzirei had the Beit Chinuch had a place, but no one was learning then. And here's a Rebbe who gave up everything, and he appreciated the better things. You could tell. You saw the way he dressed, the dignity. He had a geschmack. He had a flair. And he loved it. But he loved Torah more than that. That was the best example. And I saw how his family adored him. How do you have time for learning? He told me once. He gets a call. I don't know if it was every day or it was his daughters, and they want to shoot. And he's talking to everybody. He's talking to the family. He's such a role model. I'm not prepared. Rebbe had such a profound impact on my life. Hashem, I was able to see such a man. Has an effect on so many people. And say he's a great Baruch. We live with it. Even my children who had learned in his shir are imitating him. The Rebbe. He had such a profound impact. Behef. Yes, Mechira. We couldn't show the respect that he really deserved. Kodesh Baruch Hu should help us to live up to his expectations.
Shankov, some more.
Some of the cover would be to be Marach usually. In this situation, I think the cover is to be Mekatza. So, Shfer will be Moichum if I'm Mekatza. And the Pasuk says, Hayodato ki ayoim Hashem likeach es hadoinecho. And the Bnei Levim said to Elisha, do you know that today the Eibush is taking Eliyahu Adoinecho? And the shaila is, how could it be that the Bnei Nevi'im would know what the Talmud Muvik that Elisha did not know? And the Goyen says that when the Chayim leaves, it departs from the Eivorim which are Rechoikim, before it departs from the Eivorim which are Keroivim. So Elisha, who was so close to the Makar Chaim of his Rebbe, he was the last to be margish in the Stalkus HaChaim. Here today, I'm so glad that we're at the Divrei Hesped in Rosh Yeshiva, because now it gives more of an understanding of the tremendous ahava that the Shver had for this yeshiva, for the Talmidim. It's appropriate that this should be the mokum from which he goes to his menucha in Gan Eden, because this was the Mekor HaChaim. This is the last place where the neshama is margish, the histalikus, where we feel that histalikus, because this was the Mekor HaChaim of Mashver, Zechayim Levrocha, and the ahava, tremendous ahava, that outpouring of ahava and yedidus that we heard today from all the Masbidim and his Talmidim, and Talmidim that I remember from 30 years ago, come to the sukkah and come Yom Tovim and be Mesameach with him, and the Gishmak, and you can express it better than I can, because you learned with him, and that was his Chaim, as you say, that was his Chaim. Toiv Shem Mishem and Toiv, Yim Avovis B'Yomi Voldoi. Mishem and Toiv is used to be Mekadish, Koyin, Makdish, Kehanim, Shem and Hamishra for Kehanim, for Malochim. Shows the Midas HaKedusha. But the shame That's the identity and the essence of the neshama. That's more identifying, that's more defining than the Shem and Toiv. You can put Shem and Toiv and it designates, but the Shem Toiv, that's more defining than anything in the world. Toiv Shem, Shem and Toiv. The neshama, which is also, neshama is the same oasis as Shemen. That's the neshama which is so lichtig, that neshama. We heard the lichtigkeit that the Shvez neshama brought so much urs, so much lichtigkeit, so much lebendigkeit. Toiv, shame, that shame which was the identity, defined him. As they say over from Reb Chaim, Yom HaMovis Miyoim Hivoldoi. It's not the shame that he has at the Yom Hivoldoi. It's the shame that he has at the Yom HaMovis. Toiv Shem, Mishem and Toiv, Yom HaMovis Miyoim Hivoldoi. Yeshua was given the name Boruch. It was said it was such a bracha. Wherever he was, it was such a bracha. He brought so much life, so much toisefes, so much bracha with him. Every place where he went, people appreciated him and they had a gishmak from him. He was born with the potential to be Baruch and Makar from bracha. But the Yom HaMovis, there was so much more in that Shem, so much godless. Was Talmud Chochem, an Avrech, a Rav, he was a Rebbe, he was Menahel, a Morda Asra, Rosh Mesifta, he was a Tata, he was a Mama. Shver would always say that he was a millionaire. He said it many times, I'm a millionaire. Because his children, he said, those are my millions. My kinder, the children, is a millionaire. And he felt it. Wasn't stam gesagt. He meant it. He felt that his wealth, his riches, such a bracha had brought into the world with his children and his such tremendous pride and nachas that he had from each one of his children. And they're unbelievably special. Anyone who knows his children knows each one of them. Each one of them is Yokar Metzias, so special. The chesed that they do, the Torah that they learn, the involvement that they have in their kihillis, each one of them. Shver was a millionaire. Such pride in each one of his children, and not just the children, but the Einiklas and the Oreniklas. Everyone brought a special place in his heart, and he was close to each and every one as was mentioned. He was close to the family. They called Einiklach, called him, and he spoke to them. Not long, because Taki was learning, always learning. The bracha before Yom Kippur, someone mentioned Yom Kippur when he looked at Surah. The Yirah Shamayim, and Yom Kippur to hear the bracha that he gave the Kinderlach on an Erev Yom Kippur. Hat nicht gekannt und haben von weinen von der Bracha, that he gave on an Erev Yom Kippur. Toiv Shem, beautiful Shem Toiv, that the Shver was Zoiche too. Someone mentions his Gvura. Shtigal Hashem was his terrace. His Gvura was like the Gvura of a Nari. Strength. In the morning he didn't miss a beat, not from his schedule. Menahel in the morning, Staten in the afternoon, preparing shiurim at night. And yet he had at the same time, had to be a father, had to be a mother. Nicht zu glauben, the Gvur and the Koiches that he showed at that time. And in that Kufa, I want you to know there are things which I'm still spoiled from the Vatronus. And the lack of zich that the Shver showed at that time during certain Kufas. He loved his children, loved his grandchildren. Tremendous devotion that they had for him as well. Tremendous love in return. It's mentioned so many times, but it can't be expressed enough times. What Bobby Hindi did for Tati. As much as everyone said here, and as much as we think we know what she did, it's English higher, it was much more. I don't believe anyone could have done it. I don't believe anyone could have done it. Except her. And the closeness that there was between my Shver and the entire Sommer's Mishpacha, and David and all the Kinderlach, developed such a close connection with them. Like David said, it was like the eigene Kinderlach, like the eigene Einiklach. It was one family. And he loved them very much. Someone mentioned the cover that he gave to everyone. It's true. He gave cover to Balabatim. He gave cover to Kinderlach, the children. He spoke to everyone with such beautiful respect. Made everyone feel good. Balabatim and the Tzirei, who remained close to him all the years. Even now I meet people, always ask how's the Yeshiva, people who daven, people in their 50-year-old people mention who daven with him, who buy him, how's the Yeshiva doing? People come over to me, tell me they remember his droshes from 45 years ago. They heard a drosha, they still remember how the drosha was said, what he said, how he said it, the roshim that he made on the people 45 years ago, the roshim remains. I know that a Bochum in Yeshia 2 years ago, Bochum who are learning in Yeshia, young Bochum, 18 years old, Tati, he's not a young man. And they would come to me and say, Yoshver said Yeshia, the Gishmak that he said Yeshia was like everyone says, it's emes mamitoy. He connected with people because he loved people, and the Gishmak that he had in learning, it's emes. Tremendous. They danced on the table. When Tati danced on the table, it was Yerushalayim that people saw. He connected with them, and it was not dancing on the table. They saw the Yerushalayim Adaras Vemuna. They heard him say Adaras Vemuna. Went into the Kishkis. They heard Yerushalayim in his Adaras Vemuna. They saw a Talmud Chacham. They saw a person full of Yerushalayim. That's what they saw. It was not a spiel. It was a yachas. It was a hashpah, tremendous hashpah that he had on people. It's the Torah which made a roshim on people. I met a Rav in Marine Park, told me recently, I met him by a chasni, he told me, Yeshver Sefer, they sent me the Sefer, I read the Sefer, I told him to return to my Balabat, who says it's gems, every word in the Sefer is a gem. Because as was said, that was his divine Torah. It had a hashpah on people. We say we come to give a kovod acharim. I don't know where it comes from, that Moshe, the kovod acharim. We didn't give my shver kovod. Someone mentioned it before. The person had a shaykhus with my shver, that was the kovod. You had this chus to be close to my shver, was a kovod. That was the kovod. We got kovod. He didn't get the kovod from it. We got kovod from it. Give him the kovod after. This is the first time we're giving him kovod. It's the kovod rishon that we're giving the shver right now. And it's not the last one. It's not the first and the last. Now's the opportunity. Now we can give kovod to the shver. And I must say, it's tremendous kovod. Tremendous course of Torah to the Yeshiva. Tremendous kovod that we heard here today. And the Harav and the Ahava. And the Talmidim. One of the things that he was most proud of, it was mentioned before, but I'll mention it again. It was the Talmud of Lador, Moshe finds in Zech Tzadik Kodesh Yibrocha, that was something he was so proud of. That was the guiding light in his life. Ibegezogt from the Rebbe. Ibegezogt from the Rebbe. It was built on the Rebbe. Such a geschmack, such a hano that he had that he was. Talmud of Rosh Yeshiva, Zechon Livrocha. How are we going to give him COVID? We'll emulate him. We'll try. So beautiful things that were said today about my Shver, Shmosa Yedin, Itake, his place in Gan Eden. We have to try to emulate his ways, his meisim, his gishmak, his love for Nochayid, his gishmak in learning. And through that, Bezos Hashem, will be a tremendous comfort for him, tremendous nachas ruach for him. We will have all the most netzach noch Hashem. Wir mal kuponen, ich werde dir Medizinische für die ganze Mischwoche.
After hearing all their statements, Shinatu v'nacha, Zayor HaTalmidim, I feel like I have a lot of brothers here. And that's just a son, I have some Talmidim. But I'm a son, I was also a Talmud. I also lived in Yeshiva here, and I lived with my father's second Seder, and in Gittin. And then they spoke out, they were the Tesis Vid, the Kodesh B'Kodesh. You know, I used to say, Tesis Vid was the Chaim from the Rishon, and you know. So for life, I just got this good feeling about the Tesis Vid. Not much I say. We made about my father. My father used to say at the simchas, you know, klum of made al b'norim. So I'll say klum dead made al oviv. But the Yeshiva Zechon Livrocha said by my grandmother, Levaya, that's my father's mother. So it says in Yeshiva, Kamu b'neva yashrua. So what should you learn that Yashua is a lashon of ashrei, praise. But the Yeshiva said, the Yashua is a lashon of Ishur, like an Ishur on a get. It's a handpick, it's a stamp of approval. So Kamu b'neva Yashua, so the children, so they give approval, they show what the mother was, and Baruch Hashem, my father, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Mishpacha, it's a Mishpacha that Yashua has a son, like Avram said, you know, my father didn't tell us to learn, but the Taka gave us a cheshik for Limud Torah and for Tiktik mitzvahs and the Hasmoda. Besides everyone saying Hasmoda, but my father was, they called him 5-minute basement. The Hasmoda by him wasn't that he just wasn't late, you know. If he was waiting for a ride, he took a sefer for 1 minute, you know. In camp, when he was doing something, he took a rowboat, a sefer with him. And that was it. The Hasmoda was that he didn't waste time, even like you said, the Sita school. He went to Kazakh. Anytime he really spoke, it was always with a message. It was always something. And always a Rashi. He gave us such a geshmak. And just Rashi and Chumash. You know, the importance of Rashi and Chumash. This is the chinuch that he gave us. Like, it's so hard to be voiceless, but everybody said. You know, here's the connection to the Alta Dor from the east side that he gave to us. He gave us this geshmak that we had. My father always wanted me to speak, be a darshan, lawyer's I never speak, but to be yotze a little, just a little Jewish, is, you know, it says, Neman ha'av lo mazeh b'ni. So, I mean, the Gemara said, Neman ha'av lo b'ni, but I'll be there for this, maybe Neman ha'av, that a father has to be trusted to know, zeh b'ni, this is my son, what my son is. And that was the specialty of my father, that he was mechanech al pi dark of every all my siblings. Each one gave the chinuch, and what they need is that what he gave them. He had a special thing which I see the Talmidim got it also. Every Talmud got what they need. And that's what he gave us. And my mother, Allah Shalom, was nifter. He came to our house Pesach, and he was mechanech us and had a fair seder. My kids, they have, this is the chinuch that they got, and you know, it's a cycle of Rosh gave me my father to do this. Is after my mother's niftaris, like my shorter spoke, so my father remarried to what we call Bali Indi, you know, which which we found the code with Ahava, and besides that she took care of my father, but she enhanced the whole mishpacha. It became a different family now. She gave its aces with Shia, and she helped my father be Mechalav Le'enikot, that, she gave the opportunity that my father can continue in his chinuch, in the family itself, which we very appreciative, and we hope will continue. We'll have this kesher, keep the kesher. And like it was pointed out, we think how she was most nefesh to give my father's that she gave Marichis Yom, this whole year. It was a ness, after COVID. The fact that he survived was a real mess. Most people didn't survive after 3 months on the ventilator. And she gave Marichis Yom, but like Rabbi Ron pointed out, and it was pointed out, she also gave Marichis Yom. It was all these years she took care of herself, like my shogya said, I don't think there was anyone else able to do it even, just to manage it. Even to get my father to be mad, just to take care of it. It's something we really appreciate, and there was a special matana that we got, Moshe Shabbenchel, Gesund, and Nachas, and Arichas Yomim. My shogya mentioned about Kavod Acher, and I can't say there's a Kavod Acher, Chazal say L'chabdu L'chayim, L'chabdu L'moises, so we're not finished yet, and so it's not the Kavod Acher. We all have, my father gave us all a piece of him, so we all have a little chayim, a little my father with us. And, I hope I take it with me. I ask him on behalf of the whole mishpacha, we tried very hard. My sisters gave him Kavod and shir. If we weren't mechaber enough, he should be welcome us. And we should continue in his derech, and we should continue with the chinuch that he gave us. And we'll be all in the Ratzach, Malchus and Dimon, Kapon.
David.
Feel like I'm standing in Kodesh Kadashim, and I'll explain a little bit. It was really unheard of growing up. It was really unheard of calling Tati during the day when he was in Staten Island. It was Kodesh Kadashim. Torah was his chiyus, and he gave it over here for 55 years, uninterrupted, and real Torah without distractions. And we knew that. I think he said once or twice he was disrupted, but it was just, the yeshiva was his anchor. Although he held many positions, he loved his talmidim. And he really, I tell you that he was probably metabel more with the talmidim than his own children. But we understood that because it's elu talmidim. We got what we needed. We did my father get this chiyus for Torah, and of course he went to Yeshiva, RJJ. We had his brother, Feta Moshe Zatzal. My father had a gold watch. It was a beautiful, beautiful gold watch. Gorgeous. And you would think that my Zaidi, Shoara, gave it to him. But it was a gift from his mother before his chasana. When he got smicha, his mother bought him a gold watch. He treasured that gold watch. It was lost, and he always looked for it. But it was something to show what type of cheshivas my grandmother had, Chaydava had for Torah and for children that were developing into the Chachamim. My father had an illustrious career in Habasas HaTorah, as an avrech. He was in the Kaila by Rav Moshe. He was in the Sirei as a younger man. In the Yeshiva here, an 8th grade Rebbe in RJJ. Manad Ruchni in Magen Avram, a Manal in Karchayim, a Rav in Pardon River, or a chaplain in a long-term health facilities. My father was in one long life, continuous avodas hakodesh. Looking back at our upbringing, my father to us wasn't a conversationalist. He just lived Torah. He attended to all our needs, but he was a dugma. I knew in Yeshiva I would get a phone call at least once a year. We shared a birthday. It would come from him. Normally I would call home, but that was just his way of connecting. My father had challenges in his life. He had a heart of iron. It never let him down. No challenge. He was there, as was mentioned over here, his simchas achayim. But he had the softest heart. I remember I was sleeping in a room right adjacent to his study, and one night I heard crying. Father didn't cry. Later on in years, he was quick to tears, but I never saw him really cry. I heard him, and he was pacing. And I found out a little later that one of his rabbeim in the Masifta, Rabbi Yehuda Newhouse, wasn't well. He got a basura. It broke him apart. But he didn't share that with us. I just happened to overhear it. Such a caring heart. My father was adaptable. When my mother-in-law Shalom was nifter, he assumed the role as a mother to us. But a while later, he married Bobby Hindi, and he adapted to her family, the Summers family. I still remember just watching at David Summers' chasana, and how the simcha that he had was he was marrying off his son. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful, beautiful sight. It was like he just did everything for him to make that simcha. It was just beautiful. My siblings, my brother-in-laws, my sister-in-laws, my wife had the deepest respect for and were mechabed my father. The grandchildren, the Orei as well. My father was a motivator. He motivated Bachram, campers, staff in Magen Avram. He boosted them. He gave them chiyas. There's a Rabbi Yosef Weiss that's I met him by he was a Manal in Lakewood. I met him by a simcha, and he calls me over and he says, I want to tell you a story about my father and your father in Magen Avram. Okay, and I was in learning groups. Incidentally, my father told me that Reb Shmuel Birnbaum, Zatzal, he came over there for visiting day one time, and he told my father, he says they lent best of the mir. It's he just because he was very stark about the limit over there. I think it was an hour and 45 minutes, unheard of, but he was very, very strong about that there should be a kviz. And he told me he was misbehaving and it was sent to my father. And it was back in those years when he came to my father and he put his hands up, thinking that my father would whack him. So my father said, put your hands down. He says, what happened? Tell me what happened. So he told him the truth. He says, you know what, I learned in Yiddish Taich in my Yeshiva, and over here they're teaching in English. I don't know what's going on. So my father said, I hear. He says, try to do your best. And he sent them off. And this Rabbi Weiss told me that he says if I could go back to a point in my life where chinuch was a possibility, it went back to that point, that this motivating point of understanding, giving this young boy a chance to explain himself, and just sending him off, understanding it and say, try your best. I know before I started my avodah in Kiruv, I went to my father. Asked him for a bracha. He told me over a word from Rapam, that's all. And he gave me my marching orders till today. He was a Talmud. He was a Talmud of his Rabbein, or Shavshik, or Kagan, or Kravitz. And then there was Rav Moshe Zatzal. His love for Rav Moshe is not shaykh. You know what? I don't recall him telling over mises from his Rabbein, the floys or anything. It was their Torah. It was their Torah. He didn't want to bother them when he had an Indian. He would go to Rav Moshe, but he said his Torah is, and a true Talmud of Rav Moshe understood that his Torah was so precious, he wouldn't disturb him. He wouldn't disturb Rav Moshe. I remember Rav Moshe could be Menachem Avalos on the phone. My mother was nifter, and he started to cry, and he said, Aisha Tzadekes. He understood who she was. He understood who my father was as well. He had such a reverence for the Yeshiva Zatzal. It wasn't mice, and it was just Torah. My father was blessed twice, with my mother being his Azer, and with the passing, we had Bobby Hindi, was his Azer. She was, as was mentioned over here, she was really machaya him for years. Nobody could do them. We were most grateful. We asked for Arichas Yom. This is a real major adjustment for all of us. I have to thank my brothers, my sisters, my brothers-in-laws, sister-in-laws, my wife. And I just want to point out Yisrael, who lived closest, and really he had a tremendous devotion to Tati. Really beautiful, with such ava. My father was an uncle. He was a zaidi. He was a brother-in-law. He would speak by simchas, and we would just. Hold on to every word because he really knew what needed to be said and how he said it with such love. It's interesting. I never heard the story about a couple of stories over here. We never heard about it. It wasn't about the Kamag and Avram, about him standing up by the. It wasn't something that was shared in the house. I do remember as a young child the Yom Kippur War, and it was the Yom Kippur War, and we got into Surah, and I marveled how my father just the tzibur in what tehillim he chose, and how he led the tzibur in that very, very difficult time. So it was very, very hard the last couple of months when my father couldn't really talk. And his ability to do mitzvahs and share with Talmidim, he said he was like the Parah, he would love to be yonik to his Talmidim, Yosef sometimes, he said. It was really impossible for him. And he lost that chiyus. And because Torah was his life, giving over Torah was his life. And he slept, we tried to wake him, and he would open his eyes and smiled. my father was sensitive, skin sensitive, and he had to wear a BiPAP. And just to give you an example with his devotion to Torah, and that was his whole chiyus. And I'll end with this. Hindi had called me at one time that it was difficult for him. He didn't want to wear this BiPAP. It was very, very cumbersome and bothersome. And he didn't want to wear it, and his oxygen levels were falling. So she called me and said, would you speak to your father to give him something? So I said, sure. I said, put the phone to his, I said, Tati, how are you? And how's everything? I said, you know what, Tati, you'll be fulfilling the mitzvah of Mishmarta. And Hindi got on the phone and said, he's Muslim, and I don't think he gave a problem since then, because that was it. It was a mitzvah. That's what you're talking with it. It's not medical over here. It's a mitzvah to keep yourself healthy. And he kept it on. But that was really the most of my father. All these things, it's hard to ask my father so many years, but I just wanted to capture these couple of things. And, looking around, I see old places and how people visited, and it's all coming together. And this is a comment to my father, and
On behalf of many of the Talmidim, going back to the first year of the Yeshiva, which I was one of the Talmidim, I'd like to ask Mechila from the Rebbe, in case we won't know you covered, there were different kufas. We tried, myself, my children, who were Mezeicha to be Talmidim, and Talmidim for over 50 years, which was mentioned that the Rebbe did everything to Ava. If I just felt I had to mention this, what I'm going to say, that even to get a bacha who would never speak in public, he made me say Chabura, even though I froze up the first year that I came to Yeshiva, and I opened my mouth and I couldn't close it, and Rabbi Sachs continued the Gemara until I calmed down and made me finish my Chabura. So the few times that I could speak in public, I have to thank Rabbi Sachs as well. Just wanted to mention that the Aaron is going from here to Eretz Yisrael. Kvura in Eretz Yisrael, the Messiah is going to be tomorrow between 5:30 and 6. There are people who called and wanted to know. The Mishpacha who's going, the sons and some of the daughters, I understand, will first be back Wednesday morning, and the sit Yeshiva in the home at 28 Goldcrest in Lakewood. Right, and the Chavra Kadisha had called to ask to make sure that nobody goes to the crew, to the airport, to the cargo, because for future, their policies, they don't let it, and they're afraid that it's going to hurt to be able to take Levias out of Newark with United. So they're very makbid against it. I was asked to please obey their request. El Mawla Khamim Shafei Babylon Hamsei Menuchon Echol Kafei Ashvino the Malo is Kedoshim Taharim Kizayar Kiyam Mazirim Misnishmas Merein Harav Boruch Ben David Shalach Loilomoi ועבור שמשפחתי ותמיד, ובכל הסוף, כאן ידע צדוק, אבל אזכורס לשמוסוי, בגן עדן, מנוחסוי, לכן מלרחמים, יסתיריו, בסייסר כנוף, אבוי למים, בצרוי החיים יש נשמוסוי, ידוי נוי ונחלוסוי, וינוח בשלום ועל משכבוי, ונאמר אמן. The item is not to push while walking down the steps in order to be, everybody should be safe.